Most people think they understand why they do what they do, but the truth is a large part of our lives is driven by patterns you didn't choose, beliefs you never questioned, and a subconscious mind that learned the rules of the game before you even knew it was a game. This podcast is about breaking those patterns, questioning what everyone else accepts, and sometimes diving into unexpected topics to give perspective on human nature and the preconceived notions that shape the way we live. It's about understanding the hidden psychology behind our decisions, our reactions, and the world around us. Welcome to Knoidea Radio. Okay, welcome. It's episode 1. My name is Brandon. I'm your host for today. And it's just an introductory episode. I'm shooting from the hip, so just trying to be, unique and authentic with it. Understand that this will be a process, and as I go, I'll grow, and I'll look back at this first one and cringe at things I just didn't pay attention to, but who cares? That's the journey, that's part of the journey. You gotta learn how to get up by falling down, So I'd like to dive into a lot of topics over the course of doing this podcast, and so I don't want to cram everything, so I'll just loosely, just give my perspective on things here and there to just occupy your time and give you something to think about. Maybe it'll open up a perspective in something that you didn't understand before, change your preconceived notions that you have when it comes to certain things to make your life better. Or even create epiphanies in your life that make you do something or think about something like, I didn't think about that before, Or even like, I'm going to do this now. Those are the best moments to have in life. Because those moments right there, a lot of times become pivotal moments that actually drive you towards doing something better. But a lot of times we may live in a life that pre-programs what our outcomes are going to be for us, So say, for instance, something you even may see on TV, and because outcome happens a certain way, you automatically think, if I end up in that may be my possible outcome. But sometimes it can't be what you want for yourself, but it can be what your subconscious just remembers. Like writing something on a chalkboard 1,000,000 times and it just sticks with you, a song. It's like you may not want that song to play in your head, but because you heard it in a certain way or certain frequency, frequency as in hearing it a lot, or just whatever frequency is on compared to what you're paying attention to, becomes something that just sticks in your head. And so sometimes we gotta think about that when it comes to our subconscious. And even if you're not a spiritual person and pertaining to like a religion or anything, just because you may not believe in a religion, there's certain practices that religions have that actually, I would say, help you when it comes to, your perspective and moving forward positively and thinking positively. Like, say for instance, prayer and wishful thinking and things of that nature, and expecting things to be better. Because sometimes the infrastructure that you create to believe that it's a better path forward is what actually creates a better path forward. It's like what you believe is what becomes your reality. So even if you say something else is fake, it's like that's their reality that they can create, and they can end up with prosperity in their reality. Or you can be on the other side where you believe everything is nothing and nothing matters. And if you live in that reality, you end up in a reality that reinforces that. But just because it's reinforced, it doesn't mean that that is the perspective for everyone around you. One of the other things I like to think and talk about also is coincidence. I think about it in my own life, as well as like deja vu, because I would put that in the category close to coincidence, especially when I would like put both of them together and try to see how one may actually like relate to the other, because coincidentally, I guess you're thinking about this, it happens later. Or, sometimes an actual coincidence that isn't related to deja vu. Maybe one of those dreams you just didn't remember. Actually, you were doing something and that was related to the deja vu that you felt. You just don't remember the dream, those coincidental things, like something coincidental happened, but it could have been part of some deja vu. You just never know, I don't know. I'm not the expert at it, but I do have life experience just like everybody else. So it's nice to get out there and connect to people and have them think about the things too and see where it takes us, having data on certain things that are like roads less traveled. But sometimes the road less traveled is that way because it's just, people are afraid to, or just we just don't have enough information to decide that it's the way we should go. And so one of the things I'm going to introduce that I use is like a coincidence log. And I have this like these sections that I created and everything, and it's related to just logging some of my coincidences and seeing later on how it may relate to my life, or even I think about the feeling I have even in my stomach, like the butterfly feeling when I want something positive to happen, or you're just nervous about the uncertain future, or just there's so many things in our life, but one of those things is also just like maybe how your subconscious mind actually processes information may be related to that. And the more we in tune with ourselves and our bodies, maybe we can feel an action about to happen of something that is like an unseen force, Majority of our neurotransmitters, if you didn't know, are located in our stomach. So, I definitely wouldn't, say that has no validity to it. Is one of the things I wouldn't say it's like I live by it, but I do pay attention to that feeling when I wake up in the morning, especially, the pit in your stomach, or the one end or the other, like waking up on the wrong side of the bed. So I guess it's something we all experience, but we may call it different things. So, waking up on the wrong side of the bed. But sometimes that waking up on the wrong side of the bed may be just related to something that you just like forgot about that you might have experienced through deja vu in your dream, Think about that. So you experienced the deja vu in your dream, and because you had a specific altercation or something happened, make you feel some type of way. But that thing that might have happened might have only been like 4 or 5 minutes out of your life. But that 4 or 5 minutes out of your life will ruin your whole day sometimes. But sometimes it ruining your day should only be a choice. It shouldn't be something that ruins your day because you have no way of stopping it. Because if you had to beforehand experience something and you were asked, do you want this to ruin your day or just brush it off your shoulders? And you would say you just want to be brushed off your shoulders. You just continue your day that leads to prosperity or whatever. You wouldn't choose the route that is destruction for yourself. And choosing that route would be even though it's not, total destruction, it's not good for your soul and your psyche, So, imagine if you had the ability of premonition, and the way you felt your ability through premonition, the way you could use it is you could feel how you would feel in certain moments in the day ahead. And so being that what you may be paying attention to throughout your day, maybe the drama or the positivity. But if you are like hyper focused on the drama, maybe because of what you pay attention and watch and what sparks your attention, what gives you epiphanies in the most negative, wicked manner sometimes in people. It can be something that you feel a pit in your stomach and you just think about that. And so you think you're going to have a bad day. And that may draw or change the trajectory of your day if we had just multiple outcomes we could have, you know? So something to think about, because if you felt that pit in your stomach, why not just like look to combat it and prove it wrong and prove that you will have a good day? So let's think about it from the opposite end. If I felt I was going to have a good day, smile on my face, waking up and just going to grab life by the horns, would I think to try to sabotage that and make it negative? It just seems like an obstacle, so always think about it like an obstacle in a negative manner, the path in which you don't want to go, pertaining to like, the positive and negative and the things we may think to like allow it to fester and continue the arguments and things of that nature. Even it's no problem with arguing, but just look at it as a learning, somewhere in which you're learning, not something that just becomes a negative starting point that just festers into every other communication throughout the day with other individuals, or just, inanimate objects, or I'm kicking this, or I'm just angry at animals, or just like a coffee table. You know what I'm saying? Kind of long winded on that one, but I guess it's one of those things I can go further in detail in the future. But like I said, I don't want to just like put it all up there out front and just overwhelm you. Got time in the future. But me, I believe that we have a soul, spirit. I feel like our soul, our spirit is separate from our body. Our body is the vessel. Our body is what gives us certain urges that I think is separate from the soul, but connected to the body. It's like, it's seamless in the design by God. So that's why I kind of feel some type of way about this, like the transhumanism movement. A lot of times when it comes to people talking about living forever, I think about the Alter Carbon, I think it was on Netflix, the show where they had like the sleeves in the back of the neck, and that would just like transfer your consciousness from one person to another. But part of me think that's not even really like a consciousness. It's almost like a personality that can be like recreated, because a lot of people personalities are similar because they look and watch the same thing. So if you take a brain that does similar, it's pretty much the same thing, but more a meticulous watching of what a person or somebody does. It's like you're copying that, and then that copy, it just lives out the trajectory or whatever somebody would do, any spirit would do in a body, but the way in which they may only go about doing things is related to the body. So it's just like the personality is created by the previous body with the soul, and then the sleeve then is put into like a robot body or something, and then it has that personality. I guess that can develop further in the future, but whatever, getting off topic. But just to make it interesting, just talking about these random things, So I often think about zombies also when it comes to these things, because hear me out. I think about in real life, like the fiction, the non-fiction version of like our life, to where how would zombies be created? And I would think it would be created through like trying to make people younger. You have some pill or something people take, and people start taking them to make them younger, and all it does is make the soul leave the body. And if the soul leaves the body by taking this little pill to make you younger, like, oh, you trying to be younger? You real younger? You so young? You're not even in the body phase. You're in the just a soul phase. You're dead. And so just imagine, what would the body do if it didn't have a soul? It would do things the body just likes to do. It would just want to be hungry all the time, and then other urges, sexual urges. So it's just fucking and eating. That's what it's doing, And so you end up in a situation where it just at a certain point it's like it's no food, and so it's just hungry all the time. And I do find it interesting. The one thing zombies want to do is that they want to eat the brains. Maybe for two reasons. Because the brains is like one of the most, I'm not saying this from experience, but But I know it has like a lot of nutrients or whatever pertaining to whatever in the body. It has like a specific type of nutrients that it holds, So it's like maybe that's something that nourishes, the zombie and keeps them feeling alive. But also, that's also maybe where the soul is stored. The pineal gland, areas like that. So I think it's interesting that the body in every zombie thing is like it wants the flesh, but it want them brains. It want them brains. Maybe it's looking for a soul. Maybe the body without a soul is the thing it does. It's like it's either occupied by the different functions of the body, the using the bathroom, the sexual urges, the hunger portion. You think about how hunger actually drives our lives with a person with a soul, and how it forces us to sometimes we just like eat one thing after another. You mess around, have a parasite or tapeworm that just driving what you eat, and even though you have a soul that you can, make actually drive what your purpose is in life, but we can have these periods where a damn tapeworm in our stomach directs what we actually do day to day. So I mean, imagine that in a zombie without a soul. What would that do to them? And if would they then pursue living humans because they're trying to remove the suffering by eating the brains, thinking that is the closest way to get to soul? It's like a low IQ zombie, like, oh, brains, oh, soul. It's almost like their version of looking into the light. So I'm trying to look into the light. One thing I know, I just eat the brain. Maybe I get that, whatever neurons is left firing in your head. Because, I mean, I guess zombies operate without. Do they need? Yeah, I think they need a brain to operate. I don't know. I gotta look at the latest movies and see what the consensus is. I didn't check the zombie Wikipedia lately, so I don't know what's going on with that one. And I guess I'm getting close to wrapping up, and I mean, it's just a topic. I guess as I kind of talked about it before. I kind of got off subject talking about coincidences. Yeah, coincidences in this my coincidence log book that I'll make available to individuals if they want. Where I log certain things, and I have things that I pay attention to and I try to like bring into my life. And one of those pertains to like numbers, because I'm not really versed on numerology, but I think about it in some form or fashion as being something that we could kind of use to see what's going on in our own lives. No different than computers using ones and zeros to like dictate and figure out things that the human brain is yet to figure out in the same manner. Even though I still think that the computers move in a certain same way the human brain does, and humans created. So well, that makes sense. But numbers, and so my number, I think about three numbers. 757, that's my number. 757 is my number. I've had that number in my head for like decades now at this point. I had individuals who had phone numbers that were significant in my lives that had like 757 being something that's part of their lives. My birthday is on 4/17, so you carry the one and the 4, you know what I'm saying? 5/7. My mother's birthday is 7/14, That's all security information I'm gonna give out. But also, me and my son share the same birthday, 4/17. My daughter, 5/7. So May 7th. So I have a lot of significance in that number. Even like some of my closest friends and family, it's like 5s and 7s are always in the number. So even it's so funny, like if I run into somebody and we exchange phone numbers, I automatically like look at their number and see if it has 5s and 7s in it, because it low-key tells me if that person, it's not always an end all be all, but it kind of like if I see a lot of 5s and 7s or 7/7, I would think that person interaction with me may be significant in some form or fashion. And I wonder how many other people actually have those things in their lives. And I believe there's something that other people have in their lives. It's just what you're looking at and what you pay attention to, and how we can kind of like put it out there, and then we just see what comes back. I mean, I'm not the first person who's driven to a store and then we come outside and the person whose car is beside you is also the same car, you know, or they come out and they're getting out the store at the same time and they open in their car door. It's like certain synchronicities that kind of just bring us all together in some form of fashion. And it's not saying, some things can be coincidence, but then some things ain't coincidence, it's just, or something that I'm not saying it's not normal. It's just that it's data out there that could show why it happened that we just like shrug our shoulders at. And if we knew those things, we can better prepare when it comes to other things and other aspects of our lives. I think it's a reason why you have Freemasonry and certain things done by certain numbers or certain rituals because they want things to happen in a specific manner. I take sigil magic, for instance. Sigil magic was used by kings and queens. I remember being in Spain and I forget what king it was, and he had these sigil symbols, sigil. Sigil symbol is like a phrase with the repeating letters and vowels removed, I believe. And the rest of the letters, it makes something, a symbol, and you kind of focus on that. And that symbol is what is pretty much the same thing as the complete phrase with all the letters and everything. But the subconscious mind takes it and it takes it somewhere else, So I was talking about in my introduction. But you'll have people who try to do sigil magic, this magic with a CK at the end, where it's like a phrase, like say for instance, I will make $1 million. And you remove all the letters, they're repeating the vowels and everything. And the rest of the letters you kind of focus on, you think about that phrase to help manifest it within your life. But not to get too ahead of myself, thank you for everyone who's actually like stayed and listened to any of this. I'm Brandon. It's Knoidea Radio. Please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know how you feel about anything I talked about in the comments. Share, contact me, anything of that nature. Peace till next time.